I paid $515 for this special edition Mountain Dew Xbox. I already made one video trying to fix it. I changed all the capacitors on the board and the power supply, but it still didn't work. Luckily, you guys left a bunch of great comments for me to try, so in today's video, we're gonna try those and see if we can fix it. This video is sponsored by Whatnot, more on them in a minute. And Tronic's wife is here to read off the comments, and we're gonna try and diagnose this and see if we can figure out what's wrong.
So one of the top comments is, there are a lot of things that can go wrong on those power supplies. For one, the endpoint terminals crack at the base solder joint.
So these are the solder joints that they're talking about, this one here and this one here. And to some extent, these ones are the mounting pins. These ones are where the power actually comes in. And these look fine. So probably what the best thing to do is we'll just plug this in to a power cord and see if we're getting voltage back here. Then we'll see if we're getting voltage under here as well. Okay, plugging in power. There we go. So let's see what we have over here and over here. There we have 123 volts. So that tells us that those joints are good and we are getting power into the power supply.
And the next one is another power supply related thing. They suggest checking the fuse on the power supply.
Okay, and this one, the fuse is actually kind of hard to find. It doesn't really look like a fuse, but when looking at the board, there's a little F1 here. The 1 is kind of covered up, but this is the fuse right here. So what we're gonna do is flip it over, being very careful. Since this was plugged into power, all of the capacitors are live. And the fuse is between these two right here, and we should get a very low reading, 0.7 ohms, so that tells us that the fuse is good. If it was bad, this would likely read OL. So we know the fuse is also good.
Okay, so no luck with those first two suggestions, but I feel really good about this third one. So this says that this person would check the flim-flam modulator along with the magno-oscillator to make sure that those are all working correctly.
That's brilliant. Can you, I don't remember where those were on this one. Can you show me where those are?
I don't remember either.
So we don't know where those components are. We'll have to look that up online. Let's move on to the next one.
This person says, a common problem with these Xboxes is damaged traces along the front of the board.
Yeah, and I don't remember checking that in my first video. I do want to check one thing with this power supply first. I want to make sure that there's actually voltage getting to the power plug that goes into the board. So let's check that first, and then we'll get the board out and check those traces. So I have the power supply plugged into power, and now we're going to check and see if we have standby voltage. So we have one probe on black, which is ground, and one probe on the standby pin. And as you can see, we have 3.297. This should be about 3.3 volts, which it is. So we know that the power supply at least is working initially for the standby power. So everything looks good so far. All the tests are showing that everything is working as normal. Let's get this motherboard out and have a look at it. So looking at the bottom of the board, it looks like these traces right here are the ones that multiple commenters had commented about. And I mean, sort of fortunately, but also unfortunately, because this would be an easy fix, everything looks fine with those traces. I don't see any problems at all. They go all along here, and there's just no problems at all with those. Okay, traces are all good. What's next?
So this commenter said that they would test the traces near the clock capacitor.
Yeah, and there was one commenter that specifically mentioned this, the one trace in my last video that I was like, oh, it looks bad, but everything's fine. So this actually makes a good connection there. So I think we're good here. I looked at it again and I'm not sure that it is fine. So let's get under the microscope and take a closer look at it. Before we get under the microscope, thank you guys so much for your comments, and thank you to Jessica for helping with this diagnosis.
Yeah, thanks for letting me come hang out for a while and be a part of the diagnostic process. I think it's super fun to watch Steve figure this stuff out on his own, but also fun when we can kind of team figure it out together. Hopefully figure it out together.
Hopefully.
I mean, we all know he's gonna fix it, right guys?
This will be fixed by the end of this video. I fix all sorts of electronics on my YouTube channel, everything from brand new PS5s to older consoles like this Hello Kitty Sega Genesis. People are always asking me what I do with all of these items that I fix. For the last few months, I've been saving a bunch of this stuff up for a huge sale on Whatnot. I'm gonna be selling everything from retro stuff like this Hello Kitty Sega Genesis all the way up to a PlayStation 5, and Whatnot is sponsoring a PlayStation 5 Slim giveaway. Tronic's wife will also be in the stream and she'll be giving away a bunch of other stuff. In addition, Robert from the Restorist channel is going to be joining us, and he's going to be selling a bunch of the stuff that he's cleaned over on the Restorist YouTube channel. If you're not familiar with Whatnot, it's a live auction shopping platform. Whatnot has sellers from lots of categories, everything from trading cards to clothing to Lego to electronics. They've got something for everyone. This is gonna be my first Whatnot of the year, and it's gonna be huge. I'm gonna be selling more things, and it's gonna be a longer live stream than I've ever done. So I hope you sign up and come check us out. Here's how to do that. The first thing you need to do is go to the description of this video and click the link. My invite link will give new users $10 off of their first purchase. After you click the link, you'll need to create an account on the web. Then you'll just need to download the Whatnot app. You can use your login info from your web account to log into the app. Then all you have to do is search for me, TronicsFix, bookmark my live stream, and then join on the day of the live stream. So in my last video, I was looking at this trace, and I said that this trace doesn't look like connected, but it actually is. I'm not sure that's true, and I'm not sure why I said that. I feel like I remember testing it, but that definitely looks like it's bad. I might have thought I was testing this one, but I was testing a different one. I'm not really sure, but let's give this one a test. All right, so we're just going to be doing a resistance test here. This is going to tell us if there's a connection between this piece and this via right down here. This via goes through the board to the other side. So I'm going to put one probe down in here. The other probe I'm going to touch here. If there's a connection, it should beep. It definitely does not beep. So it beeps there. It beeps there. But then when it moves off of that, it does not. So we definitely have a problem right here. Next, what I'm going to do is bring a piece of wire, put it through this hole and connect it right here, and then make sure that that wire is connected to the trace on the other side of the board. So first, of course, we need to flux it up. Flux just helps the solder flow. Next, I'm going to add a bunch of solder over near that hole. Can't really get down in the hole very well, so I might need to work from the other side. We need to make sure there's some nice fresh solder here to connect our wire to. There we go. And now we need to figure out where that hole goes to on the other side of the board. And it looks like it is this hole right here. So you can tell that there is solder stuck down in there. I think what I'll do is add a bunch of solder and then try and suck it out with some solder wick. So unfortunately, even with all of that, there's something blocking this hole. So I'm gonna have to get something small enough to push through there to get it unblocked before we can push our wire through. So I do have a little dental pick that is about the right size for that, and you can see what we're getting out. It's just a whole bunch of corrosion. That's why it wouldn't come out with the solder wick or anything, because there's just a bunch of corrosion down in there. But we are getting closer, I think. Just got to get this hole completely cleared, and then we can fit a wire down through there. Yeah, you can see all that corrosion. When I put some IPA on it, it just kind of starts dissolving and turning the IPA brown. So this whole thing is just full of it. So I'm going to get this hole cleared. I can't really show it very well on camera because I have to keep flipping it over, but I'll come back when I'm done. And we finally got a wire through. There we go. I'm going to flux it up and get it attached to that little resistor right there. And then we can attach it on the other side. And with that wire soldered on, we can trim off the excess. And there we go. As I was looking over this board a little bit more, I found another trace that needs some work. This right here is the copper trace, and it ends right there. All of this down in here is corrosion, and there is nothing connecting this down into the via. So I'm going to do basically the same thing here. I'm going to connect a little wire from this trace, go through the via, and connect it on the other side where it needs to be connected. And there we go. So now that trace is all fixed up. This is making me a little bit worried about this board though. We've already fixed 2 of these. Is there any more that are going to be a problem, and how many more are there? But that being said, this trace is now all fixed up. Let's get this thing back together enough to test and see if that fixed it. All right, let's plug it in. No fan spin. No lights. I think a light normally shows up on the power button. No power on the button. Oh. I just blocked the disk drive. Okay, we do have power. That's good news. The disk drive works, and we have a game in here even. We've got The Simpsons Hit and Run. Okay. I mean, that's cool. It's good to see the disk drive working for sure. Let's see if it spins up. Okay, it actually does spin up, so that's great news. So far, the disk drive works. The problem, though, is that the power button doesn't work, which means there's probably another trace somewhere on the board that is causing that, I'm guessing, given that the 2 main problems we've had so far are circuit traces on the board. The great news, though, is that at least we have power. That's more than we had before. We also have, it's kind of hard to see on camera, we got a blinking yellow light. So, but the power, I don't know what that means. The power button itself, though, just does not work. I have no idea what that means. Okay, we also know the power supply is good, but I think I'm gonna go ahead and turn this off and do some more diagnostics. Okay, and I found another bad trace. I'll leave this shot up for just a second and see if you can find it. It's a little bit hidden. Right there. Kind of hard to see, but this little trace right here does not connect to this resistor right here. So I'm gonna fix that next. I'll just come back when it's done. All right, and this is now all done. We've got a connection between here and the rest of the circuit trace. I'm a little more hopeful here. I've checked over the board and I don't see any other major problems like this, but it is a big board and I could have missed something. Let's get this thing installed and see what happens. All right, got it plugged in, and power button, please work. It turned on. That's amazing. Okay. Let's get it hooked up to the TV and see if it shows up on the TV. I don't know what that beeping's for. We have a picture on the screen. That part's good news. Let's get the remote hooked up. I hope that beeping's not bad. Okay. Service required, call customer support code 07. Well, that gives us something at least. So all I did is wiggle the cables around, and I think we might have a working Xbox. I'm just gonna leave the date as is just because I wanna see if this thing is working or not. That's the game that's in there. Good news so far. And the game is even starting where the last user left it off. So in the end, we were able to fix this special edition Mountain Dew original Xbox. This was a little bit more difficult repair than I expected. It did take quite a bit of time to find those broken traces, but in the end, your guys' advice helped me trace it down to figure out exactly what it was. If you missed part 1 of this video, I'm gonna leave that up on your screen now so you can come hang out with me over there and see the other things I did to fix the Xbox. Don't forget about the Whatnot auction coming up. I put all the details right down in the description. Thank you so much for watching today, and I hope you have a good one.